and welcome, and thank you for joining me. Today we're going to talk about various license types within Salesforce core platform. If you are working in any sort of Salesforce implementation, or even if you have buying power, I highly encourage you to make yourself familiar with the basic license types within Salesforce. I'm not going to cover the industry specific licenses like Health Cloud, CPQ, Financial Services Cloud, but we're just going to focus on the core platform licenses. So why should we really care about licenses? From my experience, many times the client already has made a decision on buying a license, or they probably already have those licenses, and I'm just brought on to implement the solution. But you may find yourself in certain situation where the client may ask your opinion on what license do you think is good for this use case. And as an architect or as a solution designer, it is good to know all the license and what they do, because this will really impact your solution down the line. More specifically, you want to purchase your licenses that is the most cost efficient for your organization. This is relevant now more than ever, and you don't want to be buying licenses that you're not going to use, or sometimes clients tend to overbuy the type of licenses and now they're kind of stuck with that. So it's really useful to do an analysis on seeing what the client needs before making that purchasing decision. And it is the very first layer of access. We talk about profiles, permission sets, sharing, visibility, but in reality is the license type is the first layer of access that you're gonna get. If you don't have a certain license type to start with, you may not get access to certain objects and functionality. So it is the first layer of access. You also cannot create profile without deciding on a license type. Anytime you try to create a profile, it asks you, that's the base thing that you need. License is tied to the profile. And you also need to be aware of security, more so for external users. You don't want to assign the external users internal licenses and potentially give them access to sensitive internal data. And last but not the least, you want to design a better solution with a solid foundation, because the licenses and the profile become the base of your solution, and it gets really hard to change or upgrade licenses in some cases as well. All right, so let's talk about two main type of licenses. I will link you to the Salesforce help document. You can also quickly Google that. And there are various type of licenses, but for me, just to simplify things, I try to break it down into internal type and external type licenses. So who is the internal type licenses for? It is for internal employees. So Acme Inc. is a company. You have sales, service users using Salesforce. Those are your internal persona. And there can be various personas within internal. Just because an employee is an internal doesn't mean you assign the same license to all employees. You have to do further assessment to identify what do they need to do in the system to give them access to different licenses. You can actually do a full license or streamlined, maybe give them platform license and so on. We'll look into that in a little bit more. External licenses are for public sites or portals. Your personas are partners, your vendors, brokers, prospect, customers, sellers, distributors, all of these that you are working with, not necessarily your internal employees, but all of these other partners that you're working with on your business. It can be B2B or B2C. Why do you want to use external license? The best practice from Salesforce is always use external licenses for external users, because you want to limit access to data. They also don't get access to some set of permissions that internal users will get. And you always want to restrict privacy or security. So those are the main key reasons why you want to use external licenses. I'm sure there are some cost saving licenses as well for external, but those are the main reasons. So now let's talk about some of the key internal licenses that I have used. You will see there are a lot more licenses in the help document. I'm only focused on the main ones that I've seen clients use so far, as well as I'm also not covering the old licenses that Salesforce doesn't offer anymore. Okay, so the top two are Salesforce and Salesforce Platform. These are the two that I see clients always confuse, and I was confused with these as well at the beginning. So Salesforce, the core Salesforce full license, this is the license you want to assign to your users who need access to core Salesforce functionality. That is your opportunity management, lead management, forecasting, territory management, all of these things that is core Salesforce functionality. That is where you will assign Salesforce license. This gives you full access to the Salesforce standard and custom objects, reporting, dashboard, forecasting territory, all of that, that's Salesforce. So your sales reps, service reps probably will also get access to Salesforce. Now, Salesforce platform is pretty much similar to Salesforce, but it only gives them access to custom objects and apps. So let's say if you have some users that are going to use Salesforce, but you have a custom app built, you want to build some custom objects. Maybe it's like a employee tracking app or expense tracker or HR app, something that doesn't have to do with opportunity lead and the basic Salesforce functionality. You can give them access to Salesforce platform, because I think this is more cost effective and they don't really need opportunity and lead access. Then you can just give them Salesforce platform license. This gives them access to accounts, users, contacts, still reports and dashboards, all the other functionality, and custom object. Just make sure that they are the enterprise, unlimited, or developer Salesforce org. It doesn't work with performance. So that's another key point here. So these are the two main ones, but there are also some other ones that can be useful. So knowledge only. So let's say if you are using knowledge in your org, and if you have set of users, all they do is create knowledge and access knowledge. They only need access to knowledge article management. You can assign them knowledge only license. It gives them access to articles, chatter, files, home, reports, custom objects and tabs, but doesn't give them access to any standard objects. So something to keep in mind. Identity only. This is an interesting one. So think of a Salesforce org being used as an identity provider. So similar to Okta or Ping or Azure, if you are logging into Salesforce org using your enterprise single sign-on thing, sometimes you can also use Salesforce for that. And I have not seen this in practice, but in theory, you can use Salesforce as the identity provider, but then you need to buy the identity only license. The use case for this one would be that you have maybe multiple Salesforce orgs or a Workday app or an HR app. All of these apps are just being accessed by one Salesforce org. So you log into Salesforce and you have like an app launcher, and you can see all the different apps that you access from there. So that's the identity only. It gives them login access. That's it. Next is chatter-free license. I have seen some customers use this. This is used when you don't need access to anything in Salesforce, but just need access to the communication, files, and people. They can access feeds and reply. So that is chatter-free license that can be used without giving them a full Salesforce access. Now let's talk about external licenses. We already talked that external licenses are for people or businesses that you do business with. It can be B2C or B2B. So the top three are Customer Community Plus, and Partner Community. Let's get into the differences between those three. Customer Community is more for B2C, so where you have a large volume of external users who needs to log into your community or Experience Cloud site, and they need to access account, they need to be able to create cases, they can also access some knowledge articles and contacts. You can also use person accounts if that's your model. So it lets them do pretty much what you would expect from an end user, a customer who is trying to just log into the community and create a case and just keep track of their orders and things like that. So that is Customer Community. Very basic access. Customer Community supports sharing sets, which is a sharing mechanism for Experience Cloud. Customer Community Plus can be used for B2C or B2B experience. It is pretty much similar to Customer Community, but there are some key differences. If your requirement needs that the users need to have access to reporting and dashboard from Salesforce, then you have to go with Customer Community Plus. Customer Community does not support reporting and dashboards. So that's the main one. And other things that you get with Customer Community Plus is you also get access to standard sharing model. So using the sharing settings and sharing rules, all that fun stuff that comes with Customer Community Plus. With Customer Community, you can only use sharing set for sharing. So those are the two key differences between those two licenses. So that is how you decide whether you go with Plus or Community. So you'd have to answer this question ahead of time. Now, Partner Community is a little bit different. So it is mostly used for B2B experiences, and Partner Community will need sales access. So think of a reseller or a vendor that you're working with. They will need to have access to accounts, opportunities, create quotes because they're selling on your behalf as your reseller. So those are the partner community. So partner community is pretty much like sales license, but for external users. And so you get all of the above. So you get access to everything else, but you get access to opportunity, leads, quotes, some of those core Salesforce objects. You can also get delegated admin and territory management. So that's partner community. Channel account license is pretty much similar to partner community in that it supports the same things. You have opportunity, leads, quotes, access, etc. But it differs in the way that the license is calculated. Instead of calculating licenses per user, it calculates based on the number of partners. Each partner can get assigned like 40 licenses or so, and so they can rotate the license within partners. So let's say if you are Acme Inc. and if you work with like 3 partners, you'll have 3 channel account licenses and they can distribute the users within them. So, but all the similar functionality. It really depends on what your use case is to go with one license or the other. External identity is similar to identity that I already talked about. It gives external users access to apps and being able to log in and register themselves using SSO. But if you are purchasing any of these licenses, they already have external identity, so you don't have to purchase them separately. However, if you decide to purchase external identity first, then you can also upgrade to customer community if needed. External apps is, I have not used this before, but from what I read, it's a B2C experience and it provides limited access to custom objects. So it's also very similar to external identity, but the custom objects is like 100 custom objects and can have access to account contacts. Note that it doesn't give you access to case knowledge and other objects, but it gives you access to account contacts and some custom objects. So that external app. So those are the key licenses across internal and external that I have seen. Definitely the top 2, Salesforce and Salesforce Platform, and on here, Customer Community Plus, and Partner Community. Some other FAQ or notes. So do you need a community license to create or give access to Experience Cloud sites? You actually don't. You can create Experience Cloud sites without having any licenses. And the difference would be that it will be a public site. So just like you create a site in like WordPress, you can create a site, but it will just be people can view it as unauthenticated users. They can't log in unless you have a license, but you can show knowledge articles and other things from Salesforce to unauthenticated users. Be very careful on what you are exposing though on the public site. Guest users are also not counted against external license counts. Licenses are assigned to users. So let's say if you have 2 community sites on your Salesforce org, it doesn't mean that all the users in that site have to have the same license. You can have 2 customer community plus, 50 customer community, and you can mix and match, and you can have partner community. So it's not site-based, it's user-based. So licenses are assigned to the users and not to the site. Another thing about external license is that there are 2 types of pricing. There is login-based and member-based. So for all of these, customer community plus, partner community, you can get a login-based or a member-based. So that means like, let's say if you know for sure that you're gonna have 100 users logging in, you'd probably go for the member-based. So you'll assign 100 licenses to 100 users. But let's say if you don't really know and you feel like you don't need those many licenses and people don't log in so often, you can go for login based, and Salesforce will calculate on how many users are logging in per month or rolling basis. You can read more about that on the documentation, but that is something to call out as well. So there is some choice to be made there, whether you want to go with member based or login based license. Also note that you can assign licenses through other ways, not just through profile. At the beginning, I mentioned that when you're creating a profile, you have to attach it to a license. But once you create the base profile, you can still add additional licenses to the users using permission set licenses. This mostly applies to Health Cloud or Financial Services Cloud or Einstein. So all of these different industry clouds have their permission set licenses that you have to assign to the users. You can also assign licenses through some user checkboxes like Service Cloud, Knowledge User. So you can assign licenses that way as well. So profile is not the only way to assign licenses. All right, so that is all I have for today. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much for watching.